Hey, good morning, everybody. First of all, I wanted to let you guys know that we're going to be making a slight change in the way that I'm going to schedule things every week. So, in addition to teaching you guys, I work another job also. And there's been some changes to the schedule in that job. And so, what I'm going to do from now on is instead of posting all the new material on Sundays, I'm going to post them on Wednesday mornings. So, like I'm doing today, which means same basic theme. It's just that we'll go from Wednesday to Tuesday. So, new material will get posted on Wednesday mornings, and your assignments will be due on Tuesday by 11:59 p.m. So, we'll make the changeover this week, and from now on, that's how things will be due. So that's the first thing that I wanted to cover with you. And during the last week, that'll change a little bit because of finals week, but I'll let you know about that as we approach, and I'm also going to make some adjustments to the calendar so you can see that. So this week we're doing our first rough draft. So remember I said that we're going to have two rough drafts and two final drafts this term. And that each one will be based a little bit around some of the writing that you did in your brainstorm. So for this one, I'll be posting this prompt, and the prompt gives you two different options, and it reminds you that in week one, you practiced reading an article where a speaker gave advice to some graduating college students. And so in this essay, you're going to be following in his footsteps, and you're going to be writing a 5-paragraph style essay in which you give some advice. And both of the prompts are set up to be really good for 5-paragraph essays, because you'll notice if you take a look at the prompt, then in each one I ask you for three things, three pieces of advice. And so if you're familiar with 5-paragraph format, you'll see that and say, oh, that makes my life easy, because each one of those three things can be a single body paragraph. So I will post this prompt up for you guys to read in a little bit more detail and determine which one you want to use. And for each one, there's a way for you to return to your writing from week one, to get some quotes or hints or ideas from your brainstorm, because both of these will be bouncing off of the assignment that we did where read David Foster Wallace. And you also can use his writing if you'd like. So if you want to use some quotes from his writing to help support some of the points that you're making in your advice, you can do that. So this prompt is one of the items you'll find posted this week. And in it, I also say that rough drafts are graded. So just like a final draft, a rough draft is graded. They're worth a little bit less, so they're worth 100 points, whereas your final drafts are going to be worth 125. Um, but the other difference, other than being worth slightly fewer points, is that I'm an easier grader on a rough draft. So in a rough draft, even though we're following the same rubric, and this is the rubric, I'm going to go over it in a second. Even though we're following the same rubric, I understand that this is your first try. So it's not going to be perfect. What I want you to do in a rough draft is to look at the rubric that I'm about to explain, and also look at this 5-paragraph essay outline that I'm going to post for you, and utilize this and do your best to follow this 5-paragraph structure and to follow what's in the rubric. So I just want you trying your best in a rough draft. In a final draft, I'll grade a little bit harder because you will have gotten some feedback from me. So I will have gone in and told you, hey, on this particular draft, when you write your final, you might want to make these changes, or your thesis is not clear, or you don't really have a topic sentence for body paragraph 3. I'm going to give you some specific feedback. And that will make it easier to write your final draft in a way that really adheres to this rubric. So I'm a harder grader on a final draft. Doesn't mean I won't take points off for a rough draft. So don't interpret that to mean, oh, she's going to give me all 100 of my points, right? You still need to try to follow this rubric, follow the prompt, and follow this essay outline, which is just a helpful way to utilize the rubric. So let's talk about this rubric. You'll notice that there are 5 categories on the rubric. I'm sorry, 6 categories. Excuse me. My allergies are getting to me this morning. I'm a little brain fogged. So there's 6 total categories. And I'll post up momentarily how many points each category is worth. Uh, and essentially, it gives you exceeds the standard, meets the standard, partially meets, um, attempted but doesn't meet, and then not attempted at all. Right? So not attempted means you didn't even do it. So as long as you have all of the parts to your essay, you're going to get some points in each one of these categories. So that's the way to understand 0 points not attempted. That means you didn't even do it, right? If you don't have a conclusion to your essay, then that's the category that you would fall into. So the paper just ends. There's no obvious concluding paragraph. Or if you don't have a thesis, you don't have a statement at the last sentence of your introductory paragraph that tells me what you'll be arguing, then you would get 0 points for that section. So that one's pretty easy to understand. Attempted but does not meet the standard. Generally what that means is it looks like you sort of tried, so maybe you threw in a conclusion, but you didn't even really try to make that conclusion match up with your introduction. Or I'll read the conclusion and say, this looks like a conclusion written for a different paper. This doesn't even look like it's on the topic. Or you wrote an introduction, but the introduction has nothing to do with the instructions that I gave you in the prompt. So the introduction looks like it belongs to some other paper somewhere. That's how you would fall into this category. The other categories, the lines are a little bit less clear. So those first two, you're not likely to fall into. As long as you're following the instructions, you're not likely to fall into 0 or 1, right? Partially meets the standard means that it's clear that you tried to follow the directions. So you were trying to be on topic, you were trying to hit the mark. But maybe you missed some of what the prompt is asking you, for example. So you left out some of the things that I'm asking for in the prompt. Or if you have details to support some of your body paragraphs, but then in other body paragraphs you're missing detail. Or you have topic sentences for your first body paragraph and then no more topic sentences, then you might fall into this category. Meets the standard means you followed the directions to a T. So you have all of the parts, they're all working the way they're supposed to. You have an introduction, you have a thesis, you have good topic sentences, you have good details down here in this commentary section. You have a conclusion, you tried to be on point with your grammar. I'm going to talk about grammar in a second. And you don't have any typos. So you're using capitalization where you're supposed to. You've done all the stuff that you're supposed to do. That's what meets the standard means. So the question I most often get from students is, what is the difference between meets the standard and exceeds the standard? And essentially, this is the difference between a B, which would be the meets the standard, and an A, which would be exceeds the standard. Exceeds the standard means you clearly went above and beyond what I was asking for. So not only did you give me an intro that states the main topic and addresses the prompt, but you also gave me, for example, a really good hook sentence that draws in my attention. Not only did you provide a good, solid thesis that follows all the instructions, but you gave me a thesis that stands out and that I'll walk away from that essay really remembering. It means you tried to go the extra mile to make your essay memorable. One of the easiest places, I think, to get exceeds the standard is in this commentary section, because this is where you really get a chance to shine and be creative. The commentary section is about the details that go into your body paragraphs. So if you are really great, for example, at telling a story in order to support some of the advice that you're giving, like if I'm giving a student the advice, I'm giving a graduating senior the advice that when you go into college, you should take the time to enjoy yourself and not only hit the books all the time, right? We tell college students, incoming college students, make sure that you find ways to enjoy your time at college. If I then went ahead and told a story, if that's the point that I'm trying to make, and then I tell a story about a time when I had a semester where I was working so hard that I never talked to any of my friends, I never called home to my family, I never went to any events, I never did anything else, and I was miserable, right? Because I wasn't interacting with any other humans, and then maybe my grades started to drop because I was depressed because I wasn't doing anything but work. If I tell that story to provide that extra detail and spark the reader to see this as an example, that's going above and beyond, right? You provided some really fantastic details that are specific and concrete and that I can really understand. And later in the week, I'm going to be giving you an example essay. And in that example essay, I'm going to show you the difference between these two categories, between something that meets the standard and something that exceeds the standard. So that's how you should interpret the rubric. And it is based on the parts of a 5-paragraph essay. So there's a section for introduction. Is your introduction present? Is it well organized? There's a category for support for the thesis. So this is the one I most want to explain to you. Support for the thesis means I'm going to be looking to see, do you have a thesis statement in your intro, and then do your body paragraphs have topic sentences? And do those topic sentences connect back to that thesis statement? So in other words, do the things that you're saying in your body paragraphs match what you told me you were going to do in your thesis? So if I'm writing an essay and I say that I am giving advice to graduating high school students about how to succeed in college, in their first year of college, each one of my body paragraphs should be directly related to that theme. So I shouldn't be giving advice about, if I say in my thesis that this is advice for students who are going into college, then I shouldn't have a paragraph anywhere that says, if you're not going to college, here's what you should do, right? Not because that isn't valuable advice, but because in my intro, I promised this is advice for incoming college students. So I need to stay on topic. So that's what this means. Did you stay on topic? Is everything relevant to your thesis? Commentary is your details. So in your body paragraphs, what's the meat of your essay? What are the things that you're giving me to support the claims that you make in your topic sentence? So if you tell your person that you're giving advice to, one of the things that you should do as an incoming college student is you should make sure to make time for yourself. Then in your commentary and your details there, you need to explain why. What's important about making time for yourself? When did you as a student learn to make time for yourself? How can a student do something like that? So that's what commentary is. Conclusion is exactly what it sounds like, right? You're returning to these points and summarizing them for your reader. You're reminding your reader what you've talked about. So up here in your intro, you say, here's what I'm going to do. In your body paragraphs, you do it, and then in your conclusion, you say, here's what I did. But also in your conclusion, you want to leave your reader with a so what. So what should they take away from this essay? And that's what that means down here. In a rough draft, I'm not going to be as hard on you about grammar usage and sentence structure. You're going to make some mistakes. Everybody does. What I care about here in a rough draft is, can I understand you? So where you're most likely to miss points for this section is if you write a sentence that I just cannot understand. So make sure, please, 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 that you reread what you wrote or that you hand it to somebody else and just say, does this stuff make sense? Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Conventions of spelling and punctuation, you guys are old enough to know that you need to capitalize the beginnings of sentences, you need to put periods at the end of sentences, you need to put quotation marks around things that people have said. That's the kind of stuff I care about here. But you know what else is likely to ding you here? I will take away all of your points if you have typos. Because typos are easy to catch. You can read through and you can see, oh, I accidentally spelled the word the, T-E-H, instead of T-H-E. Or I left out a word here. You can tell that stuff by reading through it. So where you're likely to get dinged down here is if I look through and I see a typo. something that you could have caught if you had read through it. And so that might knock you down to category 3 or category 2. So that's what you want to be careful about there. So that's what's going on here. And you'll notice that each of these categories has so it's 0 to 4, right? So what's going to happen for these essays that are 100 points is if you get a 4 here, I'm then going to multiply that times 5, and it's going to be 20. So each of these first 4 categories, introduction, support, commentary, and conclusion, are worth 20 points each. So that's how that works. It translates directly. These two down here, so that gives you 80 points, right? These two down here are worth 10 points each. So I'm going to post a little math thing to show you how I get those points from the way that the categories are labeled up here. So you'll see an additional little post in the module that explains how that works. But these top 4, which are the ones that are worth most of your points, it's a direct correlation. So if you get a 4, it's multiplied by 5, that comes out as 20. If you get a 3, it's multiplied by 5, that comes out as 18. So that's how you can interpret that section. So that is the rubric, the grading rubric. Here is just an outline to help you if you're not used to writing a 5-paragraph essay, and I'm going to post a video about 5-paragraph essays as well. So look throughout the week. I may post some additional little helpful hints or an example essay. But here's the bulk of what you're going to need in order to write that rough draft, and I wish you guys good luck, and please shoot me an email if you have any questions.